Welcome to the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. I am Joey Calvo. Before we get started, I would like to introduce our newest simulcast. So we will be on PhillyCAM TV, which is PhillyCAMTV.org/watch. That will be at a future date. So each of these podcasts that you will see now will be aired on the PhillyCAM TV at a later date. And also, if you'd like to support the podcast, you can reach out. We do have a GoFundMe page that's in the ticker down the bottom, so you can check that out. All support will be going towards the podcast in reference to the TV and radio production. So today our guest is Donna Quesinberry, and she's a multi-dimensional literary and business professional whose career spans more than 3 decades across publishing, authorship, government contracting, journalism, and strategic communications. So, Donna, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. It's nice to meet you.
Okay. And so Donna, explain who's Donna Quesinberry? How did we get to where we're at?
It started when I was young. I was always given to writing when I was little. I'm an author, a poet, a publisher, a ghostwriter, and a narrative strategist. I'm founder of dpInk Limited Liability Company, where I provide editorial refinement, ghostwriting, business documentation, strategic planning, and promotional development. And I'm also the founder and president of DonnaInk Publications, which is a boutique traditional publishing house that represents authors across genres. I serve also as the president of the Maryland Writers Association for Prince George's County's chapter. And I'm also the just newly elected secretary for the board. I support writers and poets in building craft and community. Okay. So that's the da-da-da-da.
Yeah. Okay. And so you're growing up, you're into writing, and you got that love of writing, and then you take it and you go further. Yes. Now, you mentioned in reference to that you also do government proposals. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Well, I was going to add that I started writing in childhood. I won a writing contest in junior high. I was offered a finishing school. At the same time, they came out and said, we'd like to have her come to our school. And my parents offered me a new horse or go to the school. So guess what I chose? The new horse. Okay. Even so, writing stayed with me because it was a quiet thread always running through my life before I understood it. But I started in my early career as a court reporter. And that's kind of how I transitioned into proposals and that. I began as a court reporter, which taught me how to listen deeply. It was very beneficial to develop my writing, not just to words, but the tone, the silence, subtext, because court reporting, you kind of get a strong idea of who's done what just doing that court reporter process. It's very intuitive. And it taught me precision, neutrality, capturing truth exactly as it is spoken, because you have to get it precise. And that kind of became a backbone of my editorial approach in my writing. From there, because I'll get into it further, but I was a single mom of 5 children at that time, and had to earn better money. Yeah. And so I went into technical writing, and I transitioned there. I was raising my 5 children alone at the time, and it became both a career and a lifeline because it pays very well. I learned to structure information there, simplify complexity, have clarity in environments. And then I started developing to a management consultant, I created thousands upon thousands of documents. I mean, literally thousands upon thousands, and proposals, white papers,
Okay.
business plans, executive communications. So then that benchmarked me into business development, because every good proposal developer ends up doing business development and capture. So I became a senior proposal narrative strategist and a solution architect.
Okay.
Multi-million-dollar proposals. And the funny thing about doing that work is you can create solutions for other people and get them millions, and on a large IDIQ, it goes up into the billions of dollars. However, turning it around to yourself is not as easy. I don't know why that is. And I'm not the only one who has that frustration.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So all right. So you went, you're writing, you're doing government proposals. You're also a writer representative, we'll call it,
Right.
of other authors that you are leading the crowd with. And some of them will be coming on the podcast sometime soon.
Right.
We're going to be discussing that off air. So talk a little bit more about the journalism part.
Okay. Well, I started doing, at the same time as I was doing proposals, in my free time, I would go into, this was the advent of the internet. And the advent of the internet, you could get yourself out into a lot of different places, because the World Wide Web was very, I don't know if you remember back in the day when you post something on the internet and it really went down to the core of the www. It wasn't, we didn't have the multi-gazillion platforms and apps. It was very base and basic, because we had to use DOS and green screens, and you had to type code in to get to places. So at that level, I got into a lot of really interesting groups, because everybody was emerging. And so you could open doors that sometimes you can't open as well after it's populated a lot. But I started doing stringer work. That just came from things would kind of get my grizzle, and then I would write about them. And I just started sending them into the editors of papers. And the next thing you know, I'm doing editorials. And I have produced at least 1,000 editorial and or stringer pieces that went into news publications and or magazines, from human interest to government operations, community issues, and business development. And then I was introduced to the Examiner, and I became the National Writing Examiner. And I also took up columns for Washington, D.C. that included government business, military technology, and wounded warriors, which all buttressed my my capabilities well, because I was already working as a technical writer. So those things kind of went hand in hand. And I did perform writing anyhow, so the National Writing Examiner also. And I had about 200,000 followers for those columns that were syndicated, and hundreds of thousands of readers. Again, though, it was a different time in the online community. The level of readership was a little more easy to achieve, but it also required a little more responsibility. Because I had deadlines and that sort of thing you had to meet.
Okay, I'm sorry. Continue on. I'm sorry.
Okay, I don't want to I'll just keep rambling on.
Oh no, please do. Please do. Ramble all you want. Ramble all you want.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a wounded warrior column, which really changed me. It taught me more about story and handling that with care, and how to write about trauma without exploiting it, and how to honor the dignity of people behind the narrative. And that still impacts my approach today. And in fact, in the publishing house, I have it, just by nature, it's just occurred that we have had a number of diversity titles. I have had an author who was a quadriplegic. Sorry, I can't enunciate well that word. And she wanted to write books for her daughter. She was young. After she gave birth, she had some kind of thing that kicked in and became a quadriplegic. And so we did her series of books, and she passed away. But her daughter still has that. And the whole of the facility where she was got involved, and everybody participated. And it was really an enriching experience. I also have a son with a traumatic brain injury, so I do develop his titles. He does some children's series, and he's developing a title with his therapist that's for adults, which should be coming out in September if I can get him to hunker down and get them done.
Okay. Okay.
So that's kind of how everything emerged.
Okay.
And I did work for a little while as a junior lobbyist, which I learned how to write things that are not pleasant necessarily in a way that they sound really great.
Yeah.
That's a junior lobbyist skill or a lobbyist skill. I learned that there. I wouldn't advise anyone, though, necessarily to go into that landmine unless they really, have the tenacity to get through it. It's not an easy arena. But at any rate, so I, and in between my early years and when I started doing the tech writing and the court reporting, I had been married for 11 years. That's when I had my children.
Okay.
And then divorced. And I was married to a USMC member, and he was a great person when he was in a good mood. When he wasn't, he was a mean person. So, I had my Me Too moment. But at any rate, I have lovely children, and they're all adults now. So, and I have 11 grandchildren, so I'm blessed in that regard.
Well, congratulations on that part. So, all right, so we juggled a little bit of each, and so you also do ghostwriting.
Yes.
So can you explain a little bit more about?
Well, I started actually ghostwriting when I was working as a junior lobbyist. Because I look at it as ghostwriting because I used to have to create. It's not the same type of narrative exchange as if you're doing a proposal or a business document. You're creating that narration, which in effect is ghostwriting, but it's not the same because it's more of a technical premise, and you're doing specifications and those sorts of things and turning them into palatable document or copy for the reader in persuasive context in order for them to want to purchase what you're selling, and also lays the groundwork for post-award fulfillment. So it becomes like the skeleton of the burst of energy that's going to occur once a company's awarded. And I have a very high award ratio, 85% or higher. When I get a client and I get them aligned, they're always in the running for the award. At any rate, though, when I was working as a junior lobbyist, I used to be asked to perform writing with basically I would have to do all the research. I had to do everything. The research, I had to, there was no technical documentation to refer to interject. There were no standing anything to draw from. It just was ghostwriting. So that curated through time. And when I was going into workshops for poetry and prose and online workshops, I started putting out my, what do you call that? My business card on the internet that, I would help people with their writing. And I used to get hundreds of authors at that time. And I wasn't in a place then yet where I could transpose what they needed into publishing, because I still needed to do a little more groundwork to make that be effective. But so many people needed help to get publishing. I mean, and I just felt such pangs that I wanted to help them, and I would help them as much as I could, but I it wasn't really graduated enough to do what I believed that they needed, but then I worked toward that goal. So that's kind of how I morphed into publishing. But in poetry and prose, I've always written poetry, and I do not write the poetry that's like lovelorn and that sort of thing. Some of my poetry is a little cringy. I've gotten better, and a lot of it's faith-based. It's all kind of spiritual, but it is. And a lot of times I work with poetry and put myself in the guise of another person interpreting another event so that it's not directly correlated to me. And as far as a lot of poets, when they start out, you're writing about yourself. And when people critique, then they're critiquing it as if it's about you. And I really believe that good poetry isn't about the individual. It's about something more expansive than your individual concepts. I mean, those things come out, and certainly there's an era developing as a poet where that's integral to the process. But in my poetic form, I kind of moved beyond that, and I learned I mentored with Billy Stone King Marshall out of Australia, who was an American expat who was a professor over there at the university. And also Richard Zola was a British poet, and he was very minimalist, kind of Ferlinghetti sort. And I do kind of resonate with Ferlinghetti, Bukowski, along those lines. But my mentor used to tell me that I'm like Herman Hesse. And he started out, he wasn't a very attractive poet in as far as his verse, but he became a Pulitzer awardee for his verse. So I used to say, which end of his career are you talking about? That's either an insult or it's a compliment. But at any rate, the poetics really, they're healing. It's very cathartic. And also you get to approach, it's like a little snapshot of a whole expanse of content. And it's really very gratifying when you get to the place where you can create verse that has so many different extrapolations for the reader, and it becomes an experience. And it's very beneficial in that regard, at least from my vantage point, writing.
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
You're not cutting me out.
Okay. So let's go behind the scenes. Okay. Of everything. So, you have people that'll be watching this podcast on PhillyCAM TV here in Philadelphia, as well as on YouTube. And so this is the perfect way, to, really start running from the gate, start right off the gate with. So explain a little bit more, being behind the scenes of the writing and the publishing.
Okay. Well, I have two business verticals. I have DonnaInk Publications, which is www.DonnaInk, one word, DonnaInk.net. I had .com, but the Chinese took it and they wanted to sell it back to me. This is a long story. And then my other vertical is dpInk, Limited Liability Company. So dpInk picked up my management consultancy, where I perform ghostwriting, business documentation, strategic planning, that sort of writing. DonnaInk Publications became the traditional arm of my the traditional publishing boutique, and I receive authors. I provide them title representation, perform catalog development, advocate for them, and I started out 100% traditional, which means no cost up front and royalties on the back end. I used to do a lot of training sessions with my early authors, and I have authors who've stayed with me throughout time. I have published 56 that I have on record, a little over 60 authors, multiple works predominantly for each of those. And presently I have about 26 authors on record, and I have about 10 to 14 that are either emerging or consistently busy. Some of mine that are still on record and we're still maintaining a flow, they've kind of gone into sleeper status. But the reason I started DonnaInk Publications is because all of those writers that wanted assistance, I saved their data. I put it in a Excel sheet, and I saved their communiques in filter systems in my email. And as I got to where I could start actually a company, I actually started helping people with publishing and manuscript development before I started DonnaInk Publications. And I started DonnaInk Publications in 2013 in September. Okay. And I started with a select group. I had probably 15. And at one time I had 26 people working with me. And that was fun. And I had some changes that took place. We had some deaths in the family, and I had to transition, and different things like that happened that juxtaposed against that. However, I am onboarding a couple new people right now, so I'm looking to upscale that element again. And I got to the place where I was able to do the things I needed to do for authors. And I've had a learning curve, I have to admit, since 2013. I've done so much for authors when I was training them that some of those authors then went out and started businesses and started to do what I do, or did offshoots. Of those, only one really seemed to be able to. They didn't realize there was more to it than there was. But I've had really good successes with my authors. Some of them have gone on to do TED Talks. Others have reality TV shows. And I do extensive things. For one group of publications, my one author is for Faces of Rat Mothers. And that's like 5 different series where I'm the ghostwriter. And they have a reality TV show. And they also, the author, Candy Struther DeVore Mitchell, she is friends with Snoop Dogg, Bobby Brown, Whitney Houston.
Oh wow!
All those people. So
you're gonna hate me then, because I'm actually friends with model Carol Alt. Remember Carol Alt, the supermodel?
Yes.
I'm friends with her, and I'm also friends with a smooth jazz guitarist by the name of Eric Essex.
Oh, wow.
And I also had Gregory Jabara from CBS's Blue Bloods. I had him on the podcast as well.
Wow.
You're mixing with royalty in a way, if you look at it. But in reference to, what I was saying about going behind the scenes, like navigating the, the publishing landscape, and the ghostwriting and building the author platforms and all that. That's what can you talk about that?
Yes. Okay. So when I started out, I kind of really front loaded a lot of authors, and I had a team of individuals working with me. And I kind of learned a little bit over time to kind of hone that down a tad and make it a more manageable platform, and not have a big expanse of authors. 50 authors was a lot to juggle. And at one time I had 50 altogether. And, so I kind of learned to draw that down a little. I have got to let my dog out. Is it okay if I step up for a second?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
She's right.
So as she steps out, let her puppy out. We are talking with Donna Quesinberry. And so as during that time, I do want to mention a little bit what this podcast is going to be on PhillyCAM TV, and also eventually it'll be on WPPM LP 106.5 FM eventually down the line. This podcast shares stories and experiences with the guests that come on. Some good, some bad. We do the best possible to be able to share that with you, the viewers and listeners, and being able to grasp on and maybe even, pick up something that, hey, I might want to be a writer, or, I might want to go into publishing, or, I might want to do, whatever the guest that is on is in. So if you do have any questions, even though this is going to be aired later on and you won't be able to answer questions right now, you can go to the YouTube channel, okay, which is youtube.com/@Life with Joey Calvo 6194. And then subscribe to it, and then you'll be able to ask questions when a guest comes on. So, make sure you click on the notifications in reference to, when the podcast is live, and that way you can ask questions of that guest. Okay, so Donna, now that you're back and everything, and thank you so much for because I did forget to get that out as well. So continue on. We were talking about the writing and publishing in reference to the navigation and the ghostwriting and building the author platforms and the independent publishing in today's market.
Okay. And, so really what I set out to do initially was to help people, because I had all of those hundreds of people writing me, and their stories were so compelling, and they needed help, and they wanted to get the word out. And this was during kind of when I started, just before I started the company. It was during the transition from having to go to the big companies to publish and being able to perform digital. So I started working into digitization of books as it came out. The big companies didn't know, they were all aflutter. They didn't know what to do. They hadn't really kind of enveloped the digitization of books into their, roadmap of production. And so they had a learning curve. So that was good for me, because there were a lot of people who needed assistance, and everyone needed to move into digital books, because that is, some people just produce digital books. A lot of authors do perform fiction writing. Their novels, they don't produce anything in print. They just solely stick to ebooks, and they actually make a little more money, because when you're, there's a lot for authors to learn with publishing. Everybody wants to be on Amazon.
Of course.
And, they want to be able to say, I'm on my book's on Amazon. Amazon really sucked up the whole market. Amazon took on every other platform that could help you to develop a book, an ebook, or to print on demand publishing. Amazon's bought almost everybody, and they take 70% generally. And you can sign up for the other where you take 35, but then you have to put out so much for free and that sort of thing. So intrinsically, and they also have crawlers. So like if with my publishing house website, when I put my authors' books out, they're usually discounted $5 to $6 from the Amazon price.
Right.
But after a short while, Amazon's crawlers go out, they see what price they are at other places, and then they bring the cost down. And because they're a multi-billion-dollar company, they can afford to cost down under their, under the cost for them to produce the title. In other words, they could take a loss, and it's low enough to take a loss and still deliver overnight, because they can afford to do it. Where
Right.
a small publisher like myself, a boutique publisher, I can't do that. I can't price below cost because, everything's out of pocket.
Right.
At any rate, so my whole ideal starting out was to help writers to achieve their writing goals, to help authors become authors. And I listened to the authors. I cared. We created a agreement together. I had authors go back and forth, and it's funny because sometimes now people look at it and they'll think, oh, it's a little unusual, and it doesn't, and they're like, they get nervous and they'd rather have the 2-page author agreement, which is actually more conducive for me as a publisher. Probably better for me if I just stuck with that one, because the one that I curated with authors actually gives authors more leverage. But I just listen and do kind of what the authors want, and kind of go in their direction. If that's the direction they're going, then I just spearhead that way. But
sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off again.
I'll, like I said, I'll keep talking.
Yeah. Go ahead. Continue.
Okay. So I realized that a formal structure was needed in order to really help authors. So that's where DonnaInk Publications was born. And it's an author-centric publishing house. I consider it to be based on integrity, compassion, and professional excellence. Now, do I ever have errors? Yes, we have errors once in a while, but we curate them. And, but we care. We do more than the average bear. For instance, if you go to a large publishing house, which are great, there's, but they're not personalized, and they don't perform as much. I add in things like marketing, promotions. We set the stage for book launches, get people out to industry. And, the more that we work condusively, the more that I can massage that out and have that happen. Like your program, I'm going to be sending authors to your program to be able to do interviews, which a standard publishing house doesn't do that. They produce your book, and that's that. Unless you're already famous.
Yeah.
Then,
So you already were going into the as you were explaining your company, you were going into the business. Explain, your business and strategy in reference to the strategic narrative and the capture and the storytelling, etc.
Okay. So I tapped on ghostwriting a little bit. I'm just going to add to that. With the ghostwriting, I just signed a new agreement for ghostwriting, and I haven't announced anything yet, so I can't say what it is. Well, I can't say it's a business book, which I'm really happy to have. It's going to be nice on the shelf. And what I do is I just talk to people. Almost everybody will say, I'm thinking about writing a book. I'm going to write a book. And so I talk them, kind of massage them through that. And I'll tell them, yeah, you should write a book, and the statistics are very exacting of the people who want to write a book. It's like less than half that actually start to write a book. And it's less than half of that again, who actually finish part of the book. And it's less than half again of people who finish the book. And then the ones, and then getting it actually out and submitting it and all that stuff. It just continuously goes down. So while there are mega billion books out there now and that sort of thing, it isn't that everybody who has a story writes it, because a lot of people are intimidated by that. So I do perform ghostwriting. Largely, I like to do ghostwriting for nonfiction because in the nonfiction guys, I can do a lot of the compilation and then just kind of bounce back and forth, and the author doesn't have to be as embedded if they don't want to be. I do perform fiction ghostwriting, but in that the author has to be more embedded, unless they just want a story created and they want to put their name on it, which I'm not adverse to. Everybody is doing that today. For a while during my career, I thought that was I didn't really care for that, but I've evolved since then, and I don't think that it's necessarily a bad idea. And I always believe that the concept that the author comes to me with, that's their concept.
Right.
It's not my concept.
Right.
So, and I ask enough questions to get what the look, feel of what their concept is down. So that's what it emerges on the other end. Now, so I've ghostwritten memoirs, business books, spiritual works, trauma narratives, poetry collections, leadership books, and creative nonfiction. I do a lot of creative nonfiction or docufiction and fiction.
Okay. All right. So now you're bringing us into the creativity and the personal development. Go a little more into that in reference to the New Age philosophies and the shadow world and the creativity as a professional tool.
Okay. I started a column back in the day with Suite 101 called New Age Philosophies for Writing Enhancement. And in that, it also became a university course. And I included in this was before manifestation, abundance, hypnosis, and all those things became kind of, faddish like they are now. But I wove those into the development of story. And what I would do is I would have in the university course, I would have them do talk down exercises to get to like their inner self and do expansive awareness exercises to draw on their internal voice, which is really, kind of the subconscious, and have that emerge. And to me, that was New Age writing enhancement. And then I had different types of markers and artwork and video integers that would then work them through series of manifestations, self-hypnosis, guided imagery in order to, at the end of that, be able to feel more competent in their writing. And that worked. The authors, people loved that course. They really did love that course.
Okay. All right. So in the little bit of time that we have left, I'm going to throw a scenario in reference to business-wise, in reference to proposal writing. I have been working on starting a ground passenger transportation service like Greyhound for the past 25 years. And so, of course, the credit's not the greatest. I'm looking for funding to be able to purchase vehicles, insurance, and etc.
Yeah.
In reference to what kind of direction would you take that in reference to if you were writing the proposal for it?
Well, first we would do some background analysis and get a baseline on what is already out there, where your niche is, because your niche is real important in what you're discussing.
Right.
And then and what your end goal is.
Oh,
and then
sorry.
Once we have that niche established and we have a solid baseline of what it would take, then there are a number of different ways. I do multi-tier approach to procurement. So I look at government, and that's federal, state, local. And government is going under such a restructure now because of the administration's adjustments and mass firings and layoffs and all that, and rebuilding whole departments. Right. So that is a transitioning environment. But there are new things coming out in the government that look promising as well. So, at first I was like, but some of the new things I've seen are actually going to be advantageous to contractors. So there is a transitional event happening there, and it's not fully executed yet. So, but you go with those federal, state, local, government, then private sector funding, institutional funding, and also, I would have you registered on a number of different like the government platform, sam.gov, have you registered in your state? And if you were doing multi-state or you're doing city and town, have you registered in their rosters? And then look up funders, and then also look at SBA programs that you could be integrated into, and facilitate those. So there's a whole compendium of things. It's like what do they call that? The bloomin' onion.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
just keep pulling, and then you have more and more. And there's actually an abundance of resources for funding. Then once you have a trajectory, and in that process of research, you kind of get a voice. You see what they're talking about, their jargon, their way of saying it, and then you develop your documentation to mirror, and also find out all the intrinsic things you need, or explicit things like licensings, insurance, those sorts of things. And I do that also for my authors. I start corporations for them. I get them branded. I do all sorts of things that start a business. Where I usually will have a hiccup is if they've already got a business and we're trying to do the authorship, and there's not, there's like a buttress in the middle. I did want to talk about a couple books. I don't know how much time I have.
We got about 14 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question? Did that?
Yeah. I was gonna say, it's casino bus services that I was gonna go into in reference to it, and my experience in reference to that was, it started out 25 years ago as a taxi company, and then it just evolved from there, and it is already incorporated in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So I mean, those steps have been taken, and I mean, we have the motor vehicle, code, licensing in reference to it. We just don't have the funding to get the vehicles and the property and so on.
Oh, well, I can help with that. I've worked with, like, for instance, security guard companies who want to be able to build a fleet of security cars and be able to perform site security, which can be commercial or federal or state. It takes on a lot of different guises. And what you're talking about, casino, right? They would want to have security guards, So yes, I know kind of where to find the money, as it were, and to start working toward that. And the thing is, you've got to develop a narrative, and that's where I perform executive level strategic narrative development, because you've got to have a narrative that is going to catch their attention, draw them in, and have them have the element of trust. It's more than just, like, a lot of people right now are using AI to develop proposal solutions.
Right.
AI is a great tool. I love AI in a lot of different ways, but you don't want that to develop the entirety of your narrative on procurement, because that procurement document is supposed to be what you roll out post-award.
Right.
You create that document, you're telling that hiring authority, this is what I'm going to do for you. This is how we'll do it. And we'll have, a transitional team in shadowing your former team, or if we're new, we're going to roll out in this many days. We'll have this many people to start up. Then we'll map out to this many people. This is our employment policy. These are our benefits that we'll give people. That we'll have people in retention because we give out, all of that. This is the logistics of getting the vehicles. This is the cost. This is what the bottom line is. This is where we can save you money. You have to convey that. If you do that with AI, then what's going to happen is, because it already happens when they're doing it themselves by hand, a lot in federal contracting, is nobody pays attention to that document that was awarded, and they just go out and start pounding the pavement and doing what they do. Yeah. And then the federal, entity is going, wait a minute, you gave me this really nice proposal. And you were going to do this, this, and this, and this isn't what's that, and a lot of times those people never read the proposal that actually do fulfillment. So I used to really weave in, managers and and do post-award fulfillment assistance in order to get that done. So yeah, I can do end-to-end on proposal development from pre, during, and post. And that's kind of what I do for my clients. So if you're interested.
I hate to cut you off on this one. We got 9 minutes. You want to get into your books real quick?
Okay.
So go ahead.
I wanted to say I have, I think I said earlier, I have a great group of authors. And of course, Teresa Zano was going to be coming on, and she's going to be, I believe, in April sometime. I also have Catherine Sewell. Her book is Trade Secrets, Real-Time Roadmap to Acting. Right. She's an actress. She's done like 200. Her book trains you how to go from being an extra to actually performing, because she achieved that. Then I have Gerhard Plenert. He is actually a Shinto, high-level Shinto instructor for lean management. He also has taught at SDSU, BYU, Ricks College, San Diego State. He's a professor emeritus multiple times. He'll be a great adjunct on your program. And then for me, Donna,
right.
I actually have books that are coming out, and I have books that I have published. I develop evergreen activity books. I got a Boy and His Dog Remembrance Journal, mandalas for adult colorists, and I Can Write for Children. For cursive handwriting, I'm going to be doing more of those.
Okay.
Also, coming soon, if I can, I'm doing a cheat sheet for these. Naturally Endowed is a bold, authentic exploration of identity, empowerment, and natural gifts we carry. And it's set against the backdrop of society reshaped by the pandemic and the unintended consequences of governmental overreach. And it kind of goes down that path of how so much of that change management occurred without thought. And that's co-authored with Alex Chu. Okay. My work that I'm working on to be released this spring is A Time for Faith. It's a reflective spiritual work involving readers in stillness, renewal, and divine remembrance. And The Veil Protocol, that's a spiritual thriller where heavenly intent infiltrates engineered systems and unlocks the Veil Protocol, revealing a mystery that could alter the fate of every realm. And another one that it will be later in the year is Whispers from the Porch Swing. And it's about a woman who has an Airbnb or a bed and breakfast, and she doesn't know, it's a historic home she bought. She doesn't know that it's got ghosts. And they're not unfriendly ghosts. They're friendly ghosts. But they tell her all the stories of the town because they're ghosts. They get to see, hear everything. So she gets into all kinds of circumstances because the ghosts give her the down low on everything that happens in the neighborhood that other people don't know. How is she getting this knowledge? So it's a ghosty fun book.
Okay. All right. So now one last question I have for you, and we have about 6 minutes, is if someone wants to come to you, it says, Donna, I'm looking into writing. Can you guide me into, being a successful author? What's the best advice you can give to an upcoming author?
Oh, gracious. Okay, so first is to pull together a byline. I think that's the most important. Any type of writing you've done, and don't just look at it like I haven't published writing or I have, go like, again, I would say go into a kind of a meditative state and think of the types of writing that you have done. Everybody has written. So just think of that and compile that list. Then I would say also to visualize that you have a goal and you're going to achieve it. I would say to put it on paper that you're going to write a book, determine what you're going to write about, and then write that down. Write when you want to have it published, write when you want to be able to go out and take it places and show it off, and start building that in a constructive manner. Make a writing schedule. Start with how many days a week you want to write. If you study writers, highly acclaimed authors, you'll find that they all have unique things that they do that help them on their literary journey. And it's very interesting. Some of them get up at 4 a.m. and write for 2 hours. Some of them go on walks and then they can go back and write. Some have to do it overnight. Some have to do it midday. And then they have all kinds of things. Set a nook, a place where you're going to do writing. And some really talented authors have started out in the bathtub. Just set a place that you're going to be able to sit and compile. Carry a journal with you. Make notations when they come to your mind. And then, start reaching out to people like myself. And, if you've gotten to where you already created a novel or created a business book, then it's time to contact somebody like me and see what needs to happen in order for you to move into the next elements. Because, it's a good experience. And once you've written one book, you should be starting on your other book while your first book is marketing. And always be of and about your title. If you're writing a book, be dedicated to it, carry it with you. Have copies once you've published. If you haven't published yet, be able to talk about it, start, working on presentation and style, all those things, because they all apply to the final result.
Okay.
And yourself. You have to have
All right, Donna, thank you so much. And definitely go to DonnaInk.net. And so if you have an idea and you want to, you're thinking about being an author and you want the guidance, you want somebody who will back you up and guide you through your writing process to make you successful, to even get you to the point where you're even on this podcast as a guest. For all your success and everything, Donna's the person to go to. So go to DonnaInk.net. And Donna, like I said, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to come back on the podcast yourself as well.
Thank you.
So thank you to PhillyCAM TV for this opportunity to be on the air, and we will provide the best podcast possible for your viewing pleasure. And so God bless everybody, and thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.